Yo, what's up, guys? What a great win today for the Toronto Raptors, defeating the Detroit Pistons 119-108, guys. Man, what an impressive game today this was by the Toronto Raptors, guys. Getting another win against a really top opponent in the NBA, guys. Defeating the best team in the Eastern Conference today, the Detroit Pistons. What a great game this was for the Raptors. Another solid 48-minute performance tonight by the Raptors. A solid third quarter, guys, where the Raptors outscored the Pistons 34-17. A really solid fourth quarter, closing out the game for the Raptors, going on a 15-9 run the last 4 minutes of the game, guys. This was a great game, by the Raptors, led by Brandon Ingram, of course, with 34 points, again, having 36 points the other night as well against Phoenix, 70 points combined in his last two games. Jakob Poeltl has a season high in minutes tonight, guys, playing 36 minutes tonight. Jakob Poeltl also had 21 points and 18 rebounds, guys. 9 of those being offensive rebounds. Jakob Poeltl was absolutely immense tonight for the Raptors on the glass, down low in the paint tonight. Defensively, he was incredible tonight. And then RJ Barrett as well, 27 points with 6 rebounds, 11 of 17 from the field. RJ Barrett was fantastic for the Raptors tonight with his mid-range, driving the lane, making the right shots when he had the opening. RJ Barrett was fantastic tonight as well. And then Scotty Barnes, 14, 10, and 8 assists, guys, having 3 blocks on top of that. And Scotty Barnes, guys, even though he didn't have a lot of points tonight, a plus 22 tonight for Scotty Barnes on the floor tonight, guys. It was a major difference when Scotty Barnes was on the floor, especially defensively for the Raptors. Scotty had some really great blocks tonight as well, even the other night against Jalen Green as well. Who can forget about that block there? That was an incredible block there. So who can forget that one, right? And then you just add on to it tonight, with an incredible performance tonight. In the first half, Raptors couldn't shoot the 3 ball really well. They were driving the lane, the Raptors, getting points in the paint, had 28 points in the paint in the first half, had a second most free throw attempts this season, guys, with 20 free throw attempts for the Raptors, guys. So the shots weren't going in from behind the arc, guys, but Raptors doing other things, moving the basketball well, drawing fouls, getting offensive rebounds, getting second chance opportunities. Raptors did a great job as that as well. Credit to Jakob Poeltl doing most of that work there, but the Raptors found different ways to score baskets in the first half. Detroit as well, they were doing some real damage offensively. Jalen Duren, Cade Cunningham, of course, those two there combined for 30 points in the first half. Cade had, I think, 16. Duren had 14 in the first half. So those two there were making a real mess in that first half, guys. Especially Cade, he's such a great player, so methodical, is very patient when he has the ball, waits for the defense to break down, reads the defense really well. So Cade is an incredible player. Of course, we've seen that this season, of course, when they came to Toronto last time, the Pistons, and beat us, So Cade just showed again tonight why he's a great player. Duren didn't play last game. He was suspended after that brawl against Charlotte, of course, so he played in this game. The Pistons didn't have Isaiah Stewart, another big man of theirs. Luckily enough, they didn't have him. The Pistons also would have been even tougher for the Raptors tonight. But, listen, Detroit's a great team. They got some great bench players tonight. I'm just glad we didn't see Paul Reed torch the Raptors in the first half tonight like we saw him do last game. So that's obviously a positive as well, guys. But like I said, Raptors did some great things in the first half, guys. The Pistons were in the lead, of course. We're a little bit better offensively. I felt the Pistons did a little bit better defensively, but the Raptors were able to hang around, match the physicality with Detroit, move the basketball well, get shots, get assists as well. Had, I think, 10 assists on 20 made field goals in the first half, guys. So the Raptors did a really good job staying with Detroit in this game. And then in the second half, we saw in the third quarter, the Raptors completely blew it up wide open. Like I said before, 34-17 outscoring Detroit in the third quarter. The Raptors defense was immense in that third quarter, guys. Just incredible job by the Raptors defense, not giving Detroit anything. They only had 7 made field goals, shooting 27% from the field. Raptors did everything great defensively. And then, of course, as we know, when the Raptors get stops defensively, they're one of the best transition teams in the NBA. Of course, the Raptors were moving the ball in transition really well, making their shots, getting easy baskets, drawing fouls. Of course, the Raptors were doing some really good things defensively, and they were rewarded offensively, guys, especially in that third quarter. Detroit was flat. The Raptors were just more hungry than Detroit in the third quarter, guys, in every facet of the game, especially in that third quarter. Man, it was a really impressive game to say the least, regarding this Raptors team, guys. And we all know the Raptors struggle in the fourth quarter. They've had their struggles this year, but Detroit, being a great team that they are, they found ways to cut the deficit down. They were down by 5 at one point, but then Brandon Ingram, who has been absolutely spectacular the last few games, comes up big for the Raptors. Raptors found different ways to feed him the ball, had that great shot for the end one, made a three-pointer, made some big baskets when the Raptors needed him to most. And the Raptors were able to close out this game, guys, with an incredible team effort tonight in general, guys. Like I said, you had Scotty, who had 14 tonight. B.I. had 34. Yak had 21 and 18. RJ had 27. Emmanuel quickly had a horrendous game tonight. I think we'd all agree on that, only having 6 points on 1 of 12 shooting tonight. Not his day today for Emmanuel quickly. We need him to be better, of course, against these better opponents, obviously, especially in the playoffs. He was not very good tonight, to say the least. So we'll just pretend like that didn't happen tonight. But it was something for a cause for concern, of course. But quickly's been playing some decent ball as of late. But today was a little bit of a worrying sign, of course, when the teams got a little bit more physical. Of course, he disappeared a little bit. So that was obviously a bit of a cause for concern. Jamal Shed did some great things defensively, playing 24 minutes and only having 4 points. But I liked when he drove the lane a couple times, played some great defense. I think he had a block as well in this game. And so Jamal was really good defensively for the Raptors. That's obviously what we need him for. He was obviously used in certain moments instead of Emmanuel quickly because he's a better defender, I feel, Jamal Shed. So he had some valuable minutes tonight, Jamal Shed. Jacoby had that three-pointer in the fourth quarter. Jacoby finishes off with only 3 points on 11 minutes. Mamu had 14 minutes, 8 points, 5 rebounds. Mamu didn't play as much in this game because Jakob Poeltl logged so many minutes tonight. And Mamu wasn't really needed as much because Jakob was so dominant on the boards and on defense and everything else, like I said before, guys. But listen, Detroit, they didn't have the best game tonight. You had Cade with 33. Duran had 20, only having 6 in the second half, which was great. Tobias Harris finishes off with 21. And then the rest of the guys in Detroit, it was really quiet. You had Thompson with 4. Robinson only had 1 point. You had LeVert with only 9. Green only had 8. Holland only had 2. Herter had 3. Reed only had 4. Sasser only had 3. So Detroit's bench were very effective in the first half, and then the second half, the Raptors were just all over Detroit, guys. Their bench couldn't do anything. When Cade went on the bench, Detroit did nothing offensively. Without Cade in the lineup, you could see that they were struggling a bit, the Pistons, in this game, guys, whenever Cade came out of the lineup. So great job for the Raptors taking advantage of that as well tonight. Finally beating another top 10 team in the NBA, which is great to see back-to-back wins against top 10 teams in the NBA, guys. It's perfect, with the way Orlando beat Miami last night. That was absolutely massive as well, because if Miami had beaten Orlando last night, the Raptors would still be in the outside looking in. So that was a massive win for Orlando beating Miami. Then we beat Detroit tonight to stay in the 6th seed. So that is incredible as well, guys. The Raptors just have to continue to play this way down the stretch. If you continue to play this way like you did against Detroit, down the stretch and into the playoffs, you will be a very competitive team, and will be a very difficult team to knock out in the playoffs, to say the least, guys. But the Raptors finish off the game 48% from the field. Detroit finishes up with 48% as well, 29% from threes. The Raptors were horrendous in the first half. They were like 3 for 17 in the first half. They did get a little bit better in the second half, guys, but still 8 for 28 in total, 29% from the three-point line, guys. Not good enough. Detroit shot 38%. We had 60 rebounds compared to their 46. Big reason why the Raptors were fantastic in this game today, guys. You had 25 assists compared to Detroit's 23. And then this is where things get very interesting for the Raptors, guys. 56 points in the paint. Detroit had 50. We had 30 second chance points compared to Detroit's 15. Double the points, guys. Absolutely massive by the Raptors. Detroit had 17 fast break points compared to our 10. And then we had 16 points off turnovers compared to Detroit's 12, guys. We had 13 turnovers, and so did Detroit. So we had 4 more extra points on turnovers, guys. The defense was spectacular in this game today, to say the least, guys. I would love to see this type of defense the rest of the way, against these top NBA teams, guys. You're going to need to play that type of defense. And then, obviously, defense translates into offense. The Raptors spread the floor well in this game, facilitated the basketball, while Scotty had some great assists as well. The team in general had some great assists in this game today, guys. This was a phenomenal, fantastic performance today by the Raptors. One of the best performances of the season, if you ask me. It's got to be a top 5 performance for the Raptors this season, guys. The way they played Detroit through the entire 48 minutes, they were tight, they stayed close, and then the Raptors found a way to explode in the third quarter, and they did look back in this game. Even though Detroit had 27 points in the fourth quarter, we had 26. That third quarter alone was the difference maker in this game for the Raptors, guys. Now the Raptors have a 5-game road trip, their last 5-game road trip of the season, guys. You play Chicago on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. Should be an interesting game. You know, a couple guys were banged up. Of course, Scotty's been banged up. Yaka played the most minutes this season, of course. So good thing those guys are getting a couple days rest before you play Chicago in Chicago on Wednesday night, guys. Get a couple nights rest. Valiant effort tonight for the Raptors. Great win for them, guys. You know, we'll love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions on this game today, guys. If you like this video, subscribe if you guys want to see more content. Go Raptors, go as always. Guys, see you guys on the next episode of Raptors Unfiltered. Ciao, guys.